Record on this computer. Got it. Okay, we just started the recording. Judy just joined us. Sheila Wolf is here.
Judy.
Hi, Judy.
Hello.
Hello.
Everybody say hello all at once. April's here.
Hello.
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 Miranda
Hello.
Panner. Elizabeth joined us.
Elizabeth, where are you? I see you.
Okay, so
I'm trying to find myself.
Oh, there you are.
All right, let's zoom through this, and this is open to comments. But this first part, I just did MLS stats, and then later on we'll do how buyers found and other things in subsequent meetings. But MLS stats, there you go. Read them and weep. Everybody's happy now, right? We can start now.
Looks like French fries.
Well, I know it does, but I looked at them a number of ways because I always try to look at them a little bit differently that make the most sense to me. And so as you walk across the top of this, these are the number of homes, overall homes, that were for sale this year. And the red one is the ones that sold in that month going back 2 years. And you'll really notice right in here that we are at the highest that we've ever been in the last 2 years selling homes in Wichita, Kansas. In fact, only 1 month did we go over 1,200 homes sold in that month, and that was July of 2020. Our inventory is next to nothing, but we're selling homes like crazy. Now, that should be no real news to you guys, right? Except that we're selling a lot more homes than we should be given our low inventory. So if I go to the next screen, I decided to look at these month over month, both in the listings and in the sales. So this is October 2 years ago. This is October the last year, sort of, because October repeats. November 2 years ago, November this year, and so on. And what I found is the numbers stayed pretty consistent in the active listings in the previous year, but right in here, they started dropping down really bad in November, December, January, and March. Our initial instinct is to look at this and say, oh, well, if you look at year over year, COVID just damaged the dickens out of us. But the fact is, somewhere last October, they started dropping off the listings that we had before we got to COVID. People didn't know that it was going to get like that. Our inventory has been dropping consistently for 12 months. That should be important for you to relay to your clients because you can't blame everything on COVID. So those are the active listings, and they've been on a down spiral all year. Typically, we will carry in this MLS about 3,000 listings, active listings, at the end of every month, going back about 10 years. So this isn't just COVID. This is a phenomena that's been going on.
Hey, Greg, are you going to be doing a printout of this or just emailing it to us?
I'm recording it. Every time I try to print this out and do things, everybody said, well, I can't open it, I can't see it. Yes, I can do a printout of it and send it to you. But sometimes the stats are just better to know, if you will. I can also share the PowerPoint if you want to share it with your clients. So then I decided to look at the solds going back to the same month over year versions of the same month. And these are the actual solds. So we get into, I actually had these numbers backwards, by the way. This is not previous year, this is this year. It's labeled wrong. If you look at this year, we're selling more houses this year than we sold in the previous years. I'm sorry, those labels are correct. With October this year being 1,162, September this year being 1,000 versus last year at 800. And in July, we sold 1,200 homes, which is the highest month that we had going back 2 years. Now, there were some months last year that were better, and I have to attribute some of that to COVID. When you start looking at April and May, those numbers are strikingly off of what the rest should have been. And that's kind of when COVID hit. But then in June and July, we started taking off, something remarkable that I don't think anybody would have guessed if you had been talking to us at the end of March, beginning of April. Does anybody else see anything in there they want to share? Or does that look kind of right to you guys? Okay, then.
It looks about accurate in my opinion, because the expireds, if anybody has noticed, are almost non-existent. There is not much that is expired.
Yeah, it's the first time in years I tell you guys not to do expireds.
Well, and part of the reason I didn't put expireds in here is we're selling stuff so fast it never gets a chance. But I still wanted to look a little deeper in the numbers. Let me see what happens here. Okay. So I decided to go quarterly 3 years, because that's about as far back as I can pull numbers easily. I can do a lot more numbers, but it's a lot harder to get done. So I'm sorry, my screen just did something weird. So if you look at the quarter numbers and you look at the under contract and the sold and the for sale, actually you find that going back to 2017, our listings have been dropping for 3 years, not just 2 years. Our under contracts I don't pay as much attention to, but I do pay a lot of attention to the sold. And it's not that I don't care about under contracts, it's just harder number to look at quarterly. And if you look at our quarterly sold, you're going to see that they've been going up consistently going back 3 years. We don't have any inventory, and we have people that want to buy houses. Would everybody agree with that? Is it going to change next year? That's a really rough one to read, because we've got a stimulus package that's been stuck for 3 months. We have a new president coming in. We don't know what's going on with the finances or how well that's going to happen via Congress and so on. And we've got a Wichita job market that without a stimulus package may be hurting in several ways. And let's look at that job market even a little more. USD 259 decided yesterday to close schools. No inside school for the foreseeable future until January. They'll reevaluate. But it's kind of, what does that do to the work-at-home moms? Tracy works with nurses down at the hospital that work 12-hour shifts and have 4 children. 1, how is she going to teach her kids? 2, how is she going to make money because she's a single mom to feed her kids and get them through school? There's a lot of problems that are in front of us that we can't brush up the crystal ball. On the other hand, Amazon's getting ready to open up several places in town, at least 2. If they bring a 3rd in, we could have some serious job opportunity from Amazon to take over some of that aircraft. So in my opinion, based on what I know now, I think we are in a relatively stable market, in that I don't see interest rates going up, and I don't see, we'll talk about prices in a minute, I don't see the job market changing significantly long term. The short term may be a problem. We may have some issues in the first couple of 3 months, till we get the vaccine out, till the job market stabilizes, till aircraft comes back. But in my mind, if we don't have enough inventory, then I got to wonder what we do for new construction. Now, you'll note new construction numbers are a whole lot different, but following the same kind of pattern. If you look at the number of for sale, they've been consistently in the 300 range. And then somewhere about January, February, they started dropping down to where this last month, we only had 186 new construction homes for sale. And I do not think that's because we don't have any builders that want to build. I've got several builders that are building well. Now, having said that, you look at these numbers, they aren't near what we were 10 years ago when we were selling 2,100 new homes a year. But nonetheless, as you look at the solds across the bottom, going back for 2 years, we've been hovering around 50 and 60 and 70 new homes. And in July, we actually sold over 100. To me, every builder out there should now at least say, okay, well, it may not be what it was, but there is some light I can see now, and we're starting to turn that corner. Now, again, if you look at normal supply and demand, the smart money would say, well, if you don't have any resale houses to sell and people are buying up everything you got, we ought to be selling tons of new homes. But that doesn't seem to be here. So I looked at some more things, and I looked at our MLS doing the same comparison year over year of July this year versus last year and so on. And indeed, our new homes are coming up, but they still aren't where I think they ought to be. So I came up with a couple of things that I think make some sense to me at any rate. If you look at our overall, not just new construction, but overall home prices in Wichita, in 2017, the median home price was 138, and in 2020, it's 168. If you look at the average prices of regular homes, they're 155 to 192. If you look at new homes, the median price has only gone up $9,000. Now, do I believe that it's cheaper to build a new home than it used to be? No.
Hell no. No.
But, and is it that builders are getting smarter? I don't know. Is dirt getting cheaper? I don't know. But I will say that the price of new homes has not risen to near the degree that a resale home has been. It may be that they're building smaller homes and people are accepting them. It could
Now,
be.
don't you think that's strange because the material cost has gone up significantly since COVID?
Oh, it's gone up 30% just in the last 2 months. And our prices may go up more. We may be seeing the reflection of prices from the old material, from 6 months, 8 months ago when they were under contract. We got to keep an eye on our dollar per square foot to see if it goes up. It may be the houses are smaller. But what I do see is that if you look at these two numbers here, if you look at 2017, the average price was 155 to 305. You're doubling the price to be able to buy a new home. And if you look from here to here, it's only 30% more. And that's more in line with historically what new homes have been. They've always cost more, but they're more running in that 20 to 30% range rather than 100%. So that's all my slides. I will gladly send you guys the PowerPoint. I will gladly send you guys the a PDF if you like. Just send me an email and say, I want the PowerPoint, I want the PDF. Does anybody have any comments or other insights that I missed out on, or have anything that you say, well, why do you think this, Greg or Brenda or Chris or Lance or whoever you want to ask questions of? Boy, this is going to be a quick meeting.
I think over the past year, with the buyers that I've worked with, they have specific needs that they're looking for. And we talk about the possibilities of doing new builds or new construction. And one of the things that I'm constantly running into, or the excuses have been, they want to stick with pre-existing homes because they can get more for their money. They would much rather go in and buy a much larger house, older home, and maybe spend a little bit of money remodeling it or whatever, versus a house at the same price, a brand new house at the same price that would be much smaller. So That's what I've been running into as far as resale versus new sales. They can get more money for the more house for the money.
Well, and I guess it's helpful if you can find a resale house to sell them. If you can't find one and they're desperate to move, it may be that they'll consider a new build too. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to try to figure out factors. Cindy, you just sold a new house. What made that client want to go new rather than resell?
Because we looked at resale for 2 years. 2 years. And this was going to be their retirement home, so it wasn't just a normal client. They were very picky, and I knew that they needed to go ahead and do it their way and make the house picky like they needed it. They needed everything from zero entrance coming in because of their elderly mother that was going to be moving in with them. So it wasn't the easiest thing to shop for. But I will tell you, usually in new builds, I've experienced through the years that there's an average jump from contract price to completion because everybody adds on extra outlets, or they want, a bay window after the fact, or whatever it may be. So usually there's an increase that is an average. Now, I don't know about other folks, but an average about 8%, I would say 5 to 8% sometimes. So people need to really kind of let their buyers know. Sometimes when you do a contract on new build for that 300, it might end up being 310, just because of your upgrades. But that's kind of a hard thing when you go into a new client, not understanding that process. But these folks kind of knew that, and they did have quite a bit of an increase. But it is something that, they think they're getting that exact per square dollar. And when you get to the end, they really have kind of jumped up a bit.
So you said you had somebody that was looking for 2 years, and that's part of the reason you moved. Has anyone else had someone they've been looking with for a long time?
Yeah, I personally, I'm getting back on the road with a girl. She was really picky, and we were getting ready to work on break ground on a new build. And before we wrote everything up, her mother got laid off. She was going to be the co-signer, got laid off from Spirit. And now we're getting back out there, and I can see how their expectations have changed. They've adjusted what their expectations are somewhat, but it's hard because they've come from, looking at much more expensive homes and brand new pristine things to something with a little wear and tear. But,
Sheila, I need to get a hold of you to send you some of my flip houses. They look new.
Do it.
Well, it's kind of like getting a second husband. Sometimes we aren't as well off the second go around. There's wear and tear on this guy. I'm just saying. Bum knees and bum hips and whatnot. So when you say that their expectations are being lowered, it's more the income and what they qualify for than it is finding. And so now they're trying to find that perfect house within their budget, right?
Yes. And they've already seen the higher bar.
That's a tough one. That is. Anybody else want to share right now?
So how is everybody hanging on with their clients as far as the COVID? Has anybody had any things that have dropped since this? I mean, I've had 2 contracts that went south because of it. So I know it's affected our business in another direction. I mean, I know it's increased sales.
Did it go south because they were afraid of the illness or, personal contact, or did it go south because they income, lost jobs, and so on?
It went south because he lost his job due to COVID-19. So he did not qualify for the loan. And the other one was a move in from New Jersey, and the president put no move state. And so we asked for an extension, and the seller said no. They had already, it was a domino effect, and they'd already had a contract on a house, and they didn't want to wait. They knew it would sell quickly. So 2 of them went south because of that.
So with that being said, I'll just throw this out there. If you guys remember when the COVID first moved in, like in March, April, our association put together a COVID amendment or addendum, I guess it was. We need to probably start getting back to using those just to cover our clients if anything were to arise that would cause some issues, delays in closings and so forth. Just I had a closing not too long ago that I wish I would have had one. We
And
were
you
able to
know,
get worked around it, but it's something that we might need to start using again.
and you know, Lance, I totally agree. But reading that disclosure, it really is a stretch. It's like they agreed to wait a full year. So I've had agents say, that's not a required disclosure. I'm not having my client be tied up for a year. So it's just
You can
kind of
always
their
change
call.
that.
I personally would love it if we could do it, but
Well, I can see both sides of that coin. You know, if I represented the buyer or I had some issues, I would absolutely want to do it. And if I had a listing in a really hot price zone, I might say, no way, I'm going to. But our job isn't necessarily to say, you must sign this, you may do that. Our job is to present it to our buyers and sellers and give them our best advice and let them make the decisions. So it's not a bad idea for us to go ahead and present it to our buyers / sellers and say, would you sign this? Do you want this included? We can always ask for it, and then let the parties that are principals decide. Yes?
I've been having it signed, not every time, but I've been including it in my buyer package, and I have sent it to a couple. I've gotten it signed at least once by the other side just by sending it always.
Okay. Chris, I'd like to make an announcement that you may have heard about. So if I'm stepping on my toes, tell me how badly I'm doing it. Some of you guys may or may not know Shauna Walden from our West office. She currently works for, I don't know who she works for. Sorry, Chris, I lose track all the names.
what's movement?
Yeah, Movement
Mortgage.
Her and her partners here in Wichita have decided Movement may not be the best mortgage company, so they are switching mortgage brokerages. They have asked permission to stay in the building, and the only requirement that I have put on them is that they be able to release the lease from the old people, because I don't want anybody getting pissed off at me because they're moving. Shauna assures me that the current lease has a 30-day break by either party. And I said, fine, just let me know what's going on. I would say my experience is the person is more important than the company. I would much rather know that we have a loan officer that pays attention to us and gets the job done. Having said that, if Movement, they are under a lease, if they squawk, I'm not going to make them break their lease. But I don't think they have anybody here in town anyway. So I wanted you guys to know that that is starting to happen around us, and it's not something I was chosen. It's something that was thrust onto us. So if you have any input or any thoughts along those lines, please please share it. But at the moment,
I have a deal right now going on with Movement Mortgage, and it was with Adrian Green, and it's being very simultaneously, very seamlessly. Everything's being taken care of still. So I don't think there's going to be a huge hiccup. And it's like you said, Greg, it's the person
right,
that you know that's processing it and making it work for you and is giving you the calls and keeping in touch with you. It isn't the big blue company in the name above. It's that person that's keeping in contact with you as your client.
okay. All right, I'm going to stop.
Hey, Greg, I just got a new buyer on Sunday, and I gave them the contact for Movement Mortgage for them to get pre-approved. So how does that work if they're switching agencies? Will
I don't know who you gave as a contact, but they very well will let you know that they're moving and where they're going to.
Okay, because I gave them Shauna Walden's phone number. Okay.
All righty, I am going to quit recording then. Thank you.